There we go. There's Kira.
Hey, that's what it was.
Cool. There we go. How's everybody doing?
We're getting started. I'm going to just get the Facebook broadcast piece going as well, and then we'll get started with the first questions. John, feel free to chat while I'm getting this set up, and I'll let you know once we're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready to go whenever. Cool. I can.
We are live on Kickstarter. I'm just sharing it over to Facebook really quick.
Okay, cool. Hey, Raul, how are you doing? It's my first time doing anything like this, so hopefully it goes okay. Sorry, I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to this kind of technology, so I have to apologize if it's less than adequate, but I'll try my best. How's it going, Rob? So I think once Kira gets the Facebook linked up to this, I'll start answering some of the questions. And if you guys, Raul or Rob, if you have questions you're curious about, let me know. I'm here to talk about stuff. Here to talk about Omen.
All right, we are live all over the place. This is good. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. Appreciate everyone joining us. I see some people are still at work and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the first question. We are, of course, if you're just tuning in on Facebook or on Kickstarter, we are here with John Clowdus, the designer of the Omen Saga and so many other wonderful games from Smallbox Games. And we are going to answer your questions today. So we're going to start off with our first question, which came in prior to us starting from Raul. Being aware of Mezzo, I'd like to ask John if he has ever considered Aztec or Mayan pantheons for future Omen expansions. He saw us talking about this on our last stream about the Nordic and the Japanese. Prehistoric cultures from his area are full of cool gods, armies, and rich afterlife folklore he thinks would be really good fit for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Mezzo was it's a pretty cool game, as is. It's in development right now through Kolossal. And yeah, that Pantheon, man, there's some cool stuff. I think going forward, I would probably focus more on the Aztec aspect of the gods in the Pantheon, since we've already used the Mayan in Mezzo. I guess because kind of the Mayan and the Mezzo gods are kind of similar to the Greek and the Roman gods, right? The Romans borrowed heavily from the Greek pantheon that already existed, and the Aztecs kind of did the same thing. So there's Quetzalcoatl is Kukulkan, who Kukulkan is the Mayan version of Quetzalcoatl, and vice versa. So I think we would probably approach it from a Aztec point of view. And if we do that, which hopefully we do, of course, a lot of that's going to hinge on how well this project does. I think we're gonna aim for either Japanese and or Norse in the next one, just because people are more familiar with those pantheons, those characters, those myths, and it's easier to tap into that. It's really cool. I don't know if how much you guys know about Kolossal, but one of the developers, AJ Lambert, is he studied Japanese. He studied in Japan and is a big Japanese mythology buff, knows a lot about Shinto and stuff. So that's really cool to be able to tap into his knowledge on that, so to make sure that things are accurate. That's kind of one of my big things. I always try to make sure that whatever I'm presenting, if it's something that's historical or mythological, that has stuff written about it, that I present it in a accurate way. Of course, it's hard to represent everything in an accurate way when it's thousands of years old and people don't worship that anymore, and what's written on it is in a language that had to be translated. So I don't know. But going back to your question, yes, there's a bunch of different pantheons I'd like to visit with Omen, but again, it all depends kind of on how this project goes.
So John, for those that have joined us that aren't aware, could you tell everyone a little bit more about your background and where your love for digging into history or your game history?
Yeah, I mean, I have a degree in history. Of course, mythology and history aren't exactly the same thing. But I've always been fascinated with how like culture and different things have disseminated over time. Because if you boil down that's a broad statement. If you boil down most myths and pantheons and stuff and such from different cultures, you come back to almost the same beginning, and it's fascinating to me that that's something that's happened across all cultures as humanity has evolved. It's boring. I don't know. You either love history or you don't. I don't know. It's one of those things that's kind of always excited me. I actually went to school to teach history and taught for a year, and it did not work out. But it's how it goes. But luckily, I get to use my history degree and stuff to tap into that and produce cool games and settings that people don't always know about. Like it. I hope this isn't too much of a spinning off, but one of the games you guys have that's coming out soon is Merchants of Mazuris, and Mazuris was this really, really important port town on the coast of India. And as we were talking to different artists, like people in India had never even heard of it because it's this town that it's almost like, to call it the Indian Atlantis is not quite right, but it's one of those places they know it existed, but they can't quite figure out where it existed. And I don't know, it's a cool place, like historically. So it was cool to be able to do that. I guess, sorry for going on a tangent. I don't know. I get excited and I'll talk, but
That's what we want to hear.
What's next, Kira?
We've got a couple people chiming in just to say hello. Ron over on Facebook, who's excited about Aztecs and thinks Vikings would be super cool. Anthony says hello. And let's see here. All right, guys, I see one more question over in our Q&A area right now. This one's probably a little bit less for John and more for us, for Kolossal probably, but feel free to add your thoughts to this one, John. Daniel wants to know if we'll be offering a box that will house the core game and all the expansions. So this is definitely something we've had a few people bring up to us recently. And it's something we're exploring. It's definitely not going to be part of the campaign, but it will be something we're looking at for the future, whether it be an add-on or part of a future campaign where we're introducing the next Omen. I think we really want to see where it's going to be going first so that we make a box that's great. I know that I personally backed Dice Throne, and they had a cool box, but it was their second season before they did the box, because they want to be able to fit everything in there. Or at least that's how it appeared to me. And so looking to that is kind of as an example. To me, I think it probably makes sense for us to do that as a future thing. John, any thoughts on that? I think it sounds really cool.
Yeah, that's one of those hard things to do. I mean, if this project's on a trajectory to do really well, and if that's the case, then there's more content that's going to come out annually for different pantheons, different expansions, different mechanics for each culture that's represented, which is kind of cool. And it would suck if we did a box, if Kolossal did a box now that for what's available, and then the next time, now I got to buy another box.
Right.
So it's hard to gauge that kind of thing. Plus, you'd have to take into account like some people sleeve, some people don't. Some people like want this huge box that they can fit like everything in and order custom inserts and like all this. And then you have other people who want a box that can fit in their pocket. And it's impossible to make every single person happy. So I think the way that Kolossal has approached this with the way they've packaged these games is the best thing. And come next year, if when more stuff comes out, it'd be a great place to explore a larger box that could hold everything, because you want to be able to hold everything and not just what's out now and then you have to worry about what comes out next. So it's hard for a publisher to gauge that kind of thing. I know if you're not on the production end of things, it's hard to take that kind of stuff into account, because we all want stuff, right? We all want the stuff we want, and we want the stuff we want now. And it's a hard thing to balance when you're trying to make everybody happy. But I think I want to say thanks to Raul real quick. I appreciate it. I don't know. I'm just a dude who likes making games. People like the games I make and they buy them. I don't know. I don't know how I lucked into this. There's so many people who do this that are great designers that haven't had quite the success or like notice that I've gotten, and I don't know, it's flattering. When Kolossal approached me last year, I mean, I didn't know what to think. It's like I've got my fans, but like, my fans, there's not that many of them, but I mean, they're out there. But for this company to come and be interested in my entire like catalog of designs and stuff was pretty great, and I appreciate the compliment. Lots of great stuff coming from me through Kolossal. But the best, like I said, I mean, a lot of it hinges on this project, and we want it to be the best we can.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just echo Raul, you are a phenomenal designer. That's why we're so excited to work with you. I know we're going to get to it more in this live stream talking about what's coming next. But before we do, let's jump. I've got a question coming in from Ron over on Facebook, who has been reading the drafting rules and seems like they're really for Reign of War only, he says, and he's wondering if there'll be more clear drafting rules in Edge and Fire's rule books. I can say just right off the bat, yes, those are draft rule books that you're seeing on the campaign right now. We're working on updating those and really to talk about how you can mix everything together as well. But John, do you want to talk a little bit about the drafting system?
Yeah, and just to clarify, like we're talking about like actual drafting rules and not the draft version of the rules that he's looking at.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's such an open-ended question. If you like draft, I don't know if you're a long-time Omen fan, or this is the first time you're checking it out, but yeah, there's so many different ways to draft Omen. There's two base ways in the actual Omen or Reign of War rule book. Depending on what all gets unlocked in the campaign, it's going to be possible for, I don't know if I can say this or not, Kira, but it's going to be for up to 4 players to draft 4 unique decks and play like a mini Swiss tournament kind of thing. Again, it depends on how well the project does, but I want to be cautious in saying, this does not necessarily make Omen a 4-player game, but it does allow 4 people to enjoy Omen together. You're going to have over 100 unique units that you can. So that's something. For those of you guys who are new or just finding out about Omen, like I made Omen, the first edition of it in 2011, and it's evolved over the past 7 years to what it is now. And I've always said, it's not just with this, but with any game, mine or anything else. If there's something you don't like in the game, take it out. It's your game once you own it. If there's a unit that you don't like, that like it makes your friends mad, and nobody likes playing it, or you guys don't think it's like, take it out. So even with that, you're still going to have enough units to draft. Like you and whoever you play Omen with the most, you guys can build your perfect draft set of units that you guys draft to build your decks. So yeah, the other thing to mention, like currently, Omen has, drafting rules for Omen. I'm sorry, Omen or Reign of War has drafting rules just within itself. Like Omen or Reign of War is kind of this self-contained beast that you can do a whole lot with. Fires in the East and Edge of the Aegean on their own are both really great. But you can't really draft with them on their own. But if you combine them, and you combine some of the stuff you're getting through the project, through Gifts of the Gods, you can draft with those 2 sets. And I think those units that are in those 2 games, they're a little interesting. Is not quite the right word, because I think that takes too much away from the units that are actually in Omen. But they do things differently than the way the units in the Reign of War do, in kind of really neat ways.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good segue to the next question that I'd like to pose for the group, because we've seen it come in a bunch in the comment section on the page, and just in one-on-one conversations during some of our events as well. Talk a little bit about how you mix and match, and how you can. I mean, Fires and Edge are standalone. We've told everybody that, but you and Travis have both mentioned in a couple of the streams how you really enjoy certain aspects of mixing these games, and that Omen or Fires and Edge together is really exciting. So I'd love to share with the group a little bit more about your thoughts around that.
Yeah, and this is coming. I have to say it. Take it with a grain of salt. It's coming from me, the designer. I'm trying to say, this game's great, but also keep in mind I've played more Omen than anybody else. I mean, I've been playing this game. I wouldn't say constantly, but a lot over the past 7 years as I've developed and designed more stuff for it. So the base game of Omen of Reign of War, it comes with 3 units: soldiers, beasts, and oracles, and they all kind of perform a little bit differently when you play them. It also comes with 2 optional, which I think should be included, but people want to have a learning curve and not have too much thrown at them. Spirits and heroes who also operate differently, and all these units are being played from your hand using coins to different cities to accomplish different things, right? So what I suggest people do, especially if they go in for more than just a Reign of War, is instead of adding in the heroes and the spirits into their games of Omen of Reign of War, they can easily add in 2 or 3 or even 4, because the card counts are a little bit different, of their favorite units from either Fires in the East, Edge of the Aegean, or the units that are getting unlocked in Gift of the Gods, and really tailor that experience to what you want it to be. Again, like, it's your game. Play it how you want to. You're getting all the. I'm telling you, as the designer, like, add in, take out whatever you want. The other cool thing is you're getting an, Omen has 12 reward tiles that you're fighting over, basically, and there's 6 different rewards, 2 copies of each. And at the end of this campaign, if everything gets unlocked, which you guys are really moving quickly towards doing, there's going to be over 30 unique reward tiles, which means that you can either do it randomly and select 12, or you can select the ones that you guys like the most and use those in your game to tailor your game, or to randomize it in different ways to add extra life. Because while the units themselves are pretty core, because you can't get the rewards without playing the units, but what those reward cards do can really swing the game in your favor. So changing up how those rewards are presented and what rewards you get, they change the game a good bit.
Yeah, I really love the reward tiles. To speak to your point about it's your own game, right? When I taught my husband originally, I played with the spirits right off the bat, and I happened to play the very first spirit I played was the one that made him shuffle his cards back into the deck before he even played. And so I wanted him to experience the full game the first time we played, and we really had a lot of fun with that. So I think that's a really good point. House rules, right? Like, there's a recommendation for your first game, but if you already know the game and you're comfortable, you can play around with it. Or you can just, mix up your favorite ones based on what you like most. I'm really fond of the priestesses in Fires. I think they're really cool, and so I'm mixing those into my game. So great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the universal feats.
Yeah. So the one thing that hasn't changed in Omen since I first designed it and released it have been the feat cards. There's been the same 6 feat cards, 2 copies of each. Each player gets 1 that they can try to accomplish since the game came out. That's never changed. And with Tales of the Ancients, there's actually 6 brand new generic, and I say generic, and I'll explain that in a minute, feat cards that are not really like the feat cards we already have, which, again, like, if you've been playing Omen for 7 years, these are like, this is like getting a new paint job on your car, right? It's the same car, but now you're like, oh, it's nice to drive it again. I know how it handles, but man, it looks better. So yeah, when I say generic, they don't specify certain unit types. So you can use them either with a Reign of War, you can use them with a Reign of War with Edge or Fires added, or you can use them standalone with Fires or Edge, or with Fires and Edge combined. So it really opens up the play space for what you want to do in your game. Really, I mean, you can. I know I said it a bunch, but it's your game. I'm giving you literally all the best stuff that you can add or take out and tailor the game experience to yours. Of course, you can play right out of the box, and I think it's great. But some people like certain play styles, and there's enough content in there to change the game over to suit your play style.
Absolutely. So if somebody wants to be a little bit more gentle on their opponent, how would you recommend they mix up? Which parts of the games would you put together?
I think, and again, going back, I think combining Edge of the Aegean with Fires in the East has a lot of what Omen has, but it's different, right? The pacing's different. It's a little bit more. it's a little bit more combo oriented and strategic, whereas it's still swingy. Don't get me wrong, it's still Omen, but it's not quite as swingy as a Reign of War is. Just because the way the cards are balanced, so that they were designed to be standalone games. They only have 22 units in them, so the units are, to say they're toned down probably isn't quite fair, but they have a little bit of a brace on them, I guess, to keep them from being like just overly powerful. But when they're combined with each other from the two different things, you can accomplish a lot of the same, like, oh man, I can't believe I just did this, or I can't believe you just did this, kind of moments that you have in a Reign of War, right? But with more variety, I don't know, that if you're looking for, the Edge of the Aegean is definitely the softer of the three games, I guess you could say, as far as like, take that.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking for something a little bit more like husband and wife, you guys like, like 2-player card game kind of things, Edge of the Aegean is probably what you want to look at. And then, combining Fires in the East with that, I think is phenomenal. I've said it. I think Fires in the East and Edge of the Aegean combined are better than a Reign of War. Just personally, I'm not saying don't buy a Reign of War, because there's adamant fans out there who think it's just a fantastic game. So it's hard to say, yeah, this is, but it's my opinion. I've played a ton of Omen. It's fresh, it's fun. Like, the unit combinations are just great. I don't know, but
that's great. So next question is about Gifts of the Gods.
Okay.
One of the things that we're doing with Gifts of the Gods is introducing 2 new unit types, or at least that's what's been unlocked so far. We've got the Bartoi and the Edola, or Eidolon, as it's going to be an individual unit.
Sure.
Talk about those and where those 2 came from and why you chose them.
The Spartoi, that's bringing in some kind of undead into the Omen game has been something I've wanted to do, just because it opens up a whole nother set of like design vectors for playing stuff from the discard pile. So Spartoi were kind of the shoe-in for doing that, and Spartoi are cool. They're kind of like soldiers and warriors. They have an ability that happens when they're played to a city, but only if they're played to the city from the discard pile. And they have an ability called Deathless, which means they can be played from the discard pile. So on their own, they're not the most powerful units, but when you combine them with some of the things that are available, especially in Edge of the Aegean with the Myrmidons, you can pitch those guys, trigger an ability, then play them again, which is great. I think they really shine in the draft. I don't know. It's not a bad idea to include them in like a standard game, but if you're drafting, I'd suggest adding them to the draft pool, because each player has their own discard pile, so you're adding a whole other thing to pay attention to and combo out of. The Eidolon, on the other hand, are actually pretty powerful. They're kind of cool. They all have a unit type of Eidolon, which Eidolon is like the embodiment of something, to put it simply. And when you play them, they count as a different unit type that's already in Omen. So like when you play it, it says, this counts as an oracle, this counts as a as a soldier, as a beast, whatever. There's one for each. There potentially could be one for each of the different unit types. And whenever it or another unit type that's named on the Eidolon card comes into a city on either side, you get to do something. So it's cool. Like, you can, especially in draft, if like you get the one that counts for oracles and you draft a lot of oracles, you've got more beef for your oracles. And it also is kind of a counter tactic, because when you play them in a city, again, this is one of the only unit that does this, is it cares about what comes in on the opponent's side as well. So once you pop down the Omen of Savagery, which counts as a beast, well, if your opponent wants to play a beast in that city, he's going to give you a benefit. So it's a cool thing, and they're all pretty efficient. And again, it's one of those things. It's not in the base game. It's not in any of the standalone expansions. And if you like it, awesome, include it in your game. If you don't like it, you don't have to. It's about adding in all the things that you could want to use. That I think you should use depending on how you play it. But I know that I can't. Not everyone's going to love everything I make. It's just that's an impossible task. But what I can do is try to make the most number of people happy and give the people who aren't going to be happy the option of not using them. So,
Well, and the Omen of Strife, which just unlocked yesterday, really cool with soldier Omen.
Yeah, and you kill stuff. It's pretty cool because it keeps other soldiers out of the city, right? If you don't, it's cool. It's like this. I tried to make Omen as thematic as I possibly could for a card game, which is a hard thing to do with just a card game. But he's cool. He's like he guards the city basically, and the only way you can get a soldier into that city, again, basically, is to play little sneaky ones because he kills all the big ones when they get played. Of course, the opponent still gets the ability, but you get an ability too, and which just kills the soldier. So it's kind of cool. I don't know.
Super cool. So also just recently unlocked in Gifts of the Gods is the challenge cards.
Yeah, which is cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm so excited. The challenge cards have been reworked. They were previously released, but again, like with some of the other components in Omen, I've reworked them and made them generic, so you can use them with any version. And challenges are cool. They're extra. They're feats plus. There's only 6 of them. They start on the side of the table. Once one person completes one of them, the other person can't. And they're worth 3 points each, as opposed to a feat, which is worth 2 points each. So it adds another channel of point game and end game to the game, which again, it's optional. I think most people the challenges have gotten the best feedback from people as far as like additional scoring things that are outside of units and rewards. And it's cool to have them revisited and I can't think of the word, but John Ariosa did amazing art for it. That's like this Greek pottery that just I love. I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, especially compared to the really painterly kind of style of Omen that people. But it just looks great. It's one of those things that as a history student when in college, like taking art classes, I just was always enamored with that style of art because it conveys so much in one dimension, and it just I don't know.
Yeah, have to agree. It's really cool stuff. So we're gonna work towards wrapping up here. So if anybody has additional questions, go ahead and add those in our comments. But before we do, and while you guys maybe are typing them up, John, tell us a little bit more about what else is coming up from you this year with us. What are you excited about?
Excited about Mezzo. It's been a lot of work, and it's the biggest game I've ever done. But
it's huge.
Yeah, it's and Travis and Chris and AJ, they're working on making this thing amazing. I'm really excited about it. The table, we don't even have like any of the stuff actually made yet, aside from the art and just the presentation of it, and like moving stuff around and building these pyramids and calling these huge gods that help you or hurt other people it's a great thing. The card system is pretty cool. I don't want to get too much into it because it is still in development. And I mean, it's on its way out of development, but it's there. I don't want to say something's in the game and have it on the internet forever and it not be in there. I'm excited, really excited about the Neolithic reboot. You guys are, and I say reboot, it's just basically a re-release with art that doesn't look like I did it. Not that I did the art for it, but I had a very specific aesthetic in mind when I made that game, and I hit it out of the park, but not everybody appreciated it. So I mean, that's art. What are you going to do? Try to make it look like a German game that got released in 1998, and it looks like a German game that got released in 1998, but not everybody enjoyed that. So the new Kolossal, for those of you guys who have been following, like I said, this is how I want it to look because it's how I always wanted it to look if I couldn't do it the other way. And I think if you never played Neolithic, it's a great game. The way I presented it is not quite as intuitive as it probably should have been, and Kolossal has gone above and beyond to make it intuitive. The other thing, of course, like I mentioned earlier, Merchants of Missouri, fantastic card game. I don't ever like saying anything's the best thing I've ever made because God knows it's such a subjective thing. Yeah, but it's great. It's got a lot going for it. If you played the little version that I released in 2017, it's like that plus. I mean, and not just like plus for the sake of plus. It's such a great game. It's easy to pick up. I don't want to say it's a gateway game because I think that cheapens it a little bit, but it's definitely you can play it with people who aren't, what we would consider, gamers. But yeah, it's got a lot going on for it too because it's modular kind of. Every card has a different ability. If you really want to min-max things, you can really you can sink your teeth into that. But it's it's a short playing card game about buying and selling fruit. But it's really great because it has a great cast of characters that all do something different. Yeah, I don't want to spill too much for what's coming next year. But there's a game you guys have been talking about and asking about. Yeah, I think that's going to happen at some point. If you know what that is, then you know what it is, and if not, then it's not Dirge. I know a lot of you guys are really excited about Dirge, but I don't know, God, that makes me so excited that the 250 people who own Dirge love Dirge, but that'd be a hard game to remake at a cost point that made sense to remake it and make people, and maybe you got a crystal ball over there, Anthony.
We've definitely seen him pop up.
Yeah, that's the thing. That the 2-player version of Mezzo is something that I think Travis is going to go wild on and really make it great. He's really good. Yeah, that Anthony, you're one of I think 25 or 50 people who have that. So that's and just I didn't make the minis for Dirge. I got permission to use the minis that came in Dirge for Dirge. This was back in 2008, I believe. So yeah, it's a fantastic game, and it's a 2-player miniatures game, so that's a crowded field at the price point it is. But.
So Jason Funk, he's a local to us here in Indiana, friend of ours who play tests with us from time to time. He wanted to come in on Facebook and say that Mezzo is amazing.
It's even better than the last time you played it. It's one of those games that every time we sit down to every time that the development, because they're the ones doing it as part of why I'm doing this. I come up with the designs. I say, this is what, here's the groundwork. And they say, okay. And they grind it. And yeah, it's moving in an amazing direction. I'm really excited about it.
Well, to your point about 2-player, Travis is incredibly good at bringing a 2-player to a game. We've seen it multiple times just with Kolossal already. And I know we'll see it with Mezzo, and I'm really confident. And the game looks great. They were playing it today, working on it today for Mezzo, and it's really awesome. We're excited to show you guys that later this year, as well as Neolithic and Merchants and many more to come. All right, everyone. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. It's been great. I know I love hearing you talk about all this stuff. I could probably keep you on for another half hour and get you to tell us about all the histories of all the units, because I find that to be super entertaining as well. But I know everybody's got to either get on the way home from work or head out to dinner probably. So thanks Raul and everyone else for tuning in. And don't forget, if you have further questions, sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I was just thanking everybody. It's still so flat. It's just flattering to me that the people are interested in what I have to say. So it's cool. And yeah, thanks for stopping by and checking out. And I mean, obviously, if you missed it and you're watching it, live feed, thanks for watching it as well. But yeah, go ahead, Kira. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. I went into my little goofy spiel there. I just want to make sure. I always want to make sure before we sign off on the live stream that if you're watching this later, we are going to be posting it, and you'll be able to watch it later on the page and on YouTube and stuff. Don't hesitate to ask us questions. If you're watching it now and you have questions that arise later, don't hesitate to reach out. BGG, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on Kickstarter. We're here to answer your questions. And again, thanks, John. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Thanks. Take care, guys and gals.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody.